I was not focused, or I did not care about my education the way I do today, and I didn't care until I met Mike. And I think you remember me saying that at the Human Rights Commission event. And even in middle school, I I was always slipping and stuff. I was pretty good in elementary school, but once I got to middle school, high school, everything went downhill academically and behavior wise. So basically, what MBK did for me was it provided me a platform to help my young brothers, to help my young sisters, to just help my peers in general. And for that platform being provided to me, it made me. I had no choice but to broaden my perception on things. I had no choice but to study into certain things because the position I had to know certain things, and that that really changed my life as a whole because your mind is everything. It's a mind body connection. Wherever your mind goes, your body is gonna go. So that MBK, like right now, my whole day basically has been MBK. I wouldn't probably even went to school today if it wasn't for MBK because they told me I can't get paid unless I go to school. Me, I personally think I could get all my work done at home, but I gotta go to school because I only got a couple more classes left. That's why I say that. Everybody else, stay in school, you know. But
so
go ahead.
yeah. No, I got two questions for you. One, what is it that makes you think, or why do you feel that it's important to stay at school? What are you gonna get out of, flying right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, what I'm hearing, after you hung out, with my brother's keeper, it kind of changed your attitude. And I'm wondering, what is it about school that you now feel, and why do you feel that it's important to stay in there?
Okay. School. Well, obviously, that high school diploma is gonna be a ticket to a lot of economic, financial success. But aside from that, really, I personally think the school could. I can't speak for all schools, but our school per se, I personally think they could have done a lot better and still could do a lot better in engaging with the troubled youth and not pushing them to the side and denying them of certain opportunities that other kids have, and even just denying them just because they're known for being a certain way. As soon as they walk inside of a room, you have to kick them out. Like that happens to me all the time, you know. And now I see some of my same young brothers going through the same thing every day, and some of them signed up for that. Some of them do act accordingly, but a lot of them don't, and they're just associated with that. And that them being associated with that, that's gonna program their subconscious to believe that they're actually like that. And then it's a continuing cycle in our communities, not just in Monticello, but around the world, really. And MBK made me realize that there's people who actually care that I'ma succeed. I'm about to graduate high school in, I'd say, about 2 weeks with the amount of work I have to do left. And just last year when I met Mike, I never even thought of myself graduating. I never could even see myself going down. Like when I met Mike, I had 9 credits in high school. Now I only need 2 more left, and it's been a year, you know.
Right.
So that alone says a lot about what the program has done for me.
Right.
And I could also say about myself, a year ago, I was one of the most ignorant people I ever knew, but I was very opinionated. I always loved expressing my opinion. And MBK provided that platform for me to actually share those opinions, and it also made me want to educate myself so that I don't look stupid when I share my opinions, you know. And I'm very thankful for that.
So you mentioned something also interesting, how, in other words, how you've passed, played it forward, basically.
But I know I get DMs and messages from different youth every day, or just people in general saying how much I inspire them and how much like I've opened their eyes to certain things. And it could go from things such as influence to things such as like one of our brothers was homeless, sleeping outside in the cold just a couple weeks ago, or last week or something like that. And I offered him, even though my house isn't that much either, but I offered him a place to stay in my crib for a couple nights. And just simple things like that, just keeping that community of like-minded brothers to just fall back on, you know, because a lot of us don't have that. Like that kid, he ain't even have a family to fall back on, not even really much friends to fall back on. So for him to have my brother's keeper provided him access to me, because I wouldn't have known that.
So do you think that, like, before My Brother's Keeper, you may not, would not have, you know, or might not have, like, you know, approached him and said, hey, I can help you out? Or do you?
Probably not, honestly.
All right, I know. Deshaun.
Talk about yourself, sir. You know who you are, how you came to the program.
So, I'm a student at Monticello, and like, with me, when I was in middle school, I wasn't really like engaged in school, and I just wanted to like be like follow everybody else and what they're doing. Now, like, since I joined My Brother's Keeper, I feel like I changed a lot with my schoolwork and like how like I communicate with a lot of people, and I just feel like My Brother's Keeper is like a place where you can just go and you can like change, maybe a lot of change, and it provides a lot of opportunities for kids like that's in middle school and high school, and that's just and like it gives you a positive vibes, you know, a lot of positive vibes.
Cool. How did you hear about the program, and what made you think that, hey, maybe I'm gonna check this out? You know,
Mr. Regan in middle school, Mr. Regan had just like talked to me about like my grades and how like a new program was getting started,
right?
And I feel like it was interesting to me, so I joined.
Right. But what I'm just, you know, like what would he have said that would made it sound interesting to you? I mean, like that, you know, you get better grades, you know, I mean, what was the sell? You know, what did he,
like,
you know?
There was a lot of like older people there that can help you get your grades up and like change how like I am.
Okay. Right. And did you feel at the time that you needed some kind of, you know, a leg up or something, you know, a little bit, right. Right. Cool. So, how can you talk about, you know, how it's helped you in any ways, you know, anything about your own personal story?
I feel like it helped me a lot because in middle school I wasn't like really like I said, I wasn't engaged a lot. And, like, but now in high school I can feel like I'm becoming like a leader to most kids. That's like I could see that's not going in the right path.
Right.
And like my grades have gone up a lot, and like how like I like communicate. Like, I just feel like I communicate way better now.
All right. I mean, you said that. I'm not sure if I'm quoting you, you know, what you just said, but like, you know, the people who look up to you. I mean, as a result of your being in this program and just, you know, what's going on with it. In other words, like in other words, you feel like you're setting an example. You know, you're walking the walk, and you know, here it is, and people are into it.
Yeah, I feel like I am because like a lot of middle schoolers, they tell me like how like they like when they be like me something. Yeah.
Right. How long? And what grade are you in now?
I'm in 11th grade.
All right. So you got where you're and this is you said in two weeks, you said, or 2 months you're going to be graduating?
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Noah? Yeah? All right. Do you guys think that you're going to, I mean, are you going to be continuing to put some time in, you know, keep up with the program after you guys, like, you know, leave school, or, you know, what are your plans?
This program made me realize that helping communities, youth, and just people in general is my passion. I never realized this was my passion.
Oh, cool.
Until then, I had a tunnel vision for music. But MBK broadened my perception to not only use my music for different kinds of influence, but to also aim to better the world, basically, to sum it all up.
So, I mean, and I'm bringing it up because, like, you know, as far as, like, you know, keeping the program going, you know, for you guys, I mean, I'm sure, you know, after you graduate, you're going to have your own lives and do other things, but especially because you guys got on the ground floor, to me, it just seems like you have so much to offer, you know, and it would, you know, I think would be a great thing, great influence, you know, for some of the younger people that are just starting the program in 10th and 11th grade, you know, to see, you know, talk to you guys, and, you know, just curious if, like, you know, like you said, if you're planning on sticking with things outside, you know, after you graduate high school, sticking with the program and, you know, doing anything that you can, and what do you see that you can do? What do you see that you can offer to the program after you're out of it, pretty much?
I had this idea last year, but I honestly never thought we were going to make it to this radio station until that day that we were offered to come.
Right.
But now that you bring it up, I can't remember what I had planned before, but I guess basically like my idea for my podcast, and we were obviously going to build on this idea, but like I would say a rap or a spoken word or a poem or even a speech that I wrote, because I'm a public speaker too.
Right.
And just whatever content, whatever piece I have that day, that podcast, that episode, I say it and I make sure there's specific messages I'm trying to send, and then once after I say it, or maybe we'll have a special guest entertainer that says one of their pieces, and then whatever it is, we build a discussion off of that and what we got off of it, and we're gonna build on that also to have different segments as well, like.
Right.
But the aim is gonna be to influence people. I don't want to just say youth. That is my main goal. But I want to influence people in general.
Exactly.
Right.
That's beautiful. That's great. That would be a wonderful thing. You know, that would be so great if you guys, you know, could put something together and add not just like, you know, your experience, but your voices. You
Right.
know, and
Right.
You know,
And just touch on a bunch of social justice issues, global issues, environmental issues, anything to change the world.
Right. So, Deshaun, where do you guys do you pay attention to stuff that's going on outside? And, you know, whatever, or, you know, is that just kind of like something that's outside? You know, and I'm talking about not you, but also like people in your circles and such. You know, do people pay attention to that?
Yeah, we watch a lot of videos on like stuff that's going on in like the government and all that, and we just like. We have like discussions about it, like how we feel about it.
When you say we, like, what do you mean? Just like in school, or
like
just
when we go like for after school, we have a program that we do,
okay.
and we go there for tutoring, and we just go there if we need to do work and all that. And we watch videos of like the government, and they ask us questions about like how we feel about that and how can we change that.
Okay. I mean, I look at you guys and I look at two very capable, very brilliant young men, you know, who not just, you know, because I feel you're smart. I think you're smart because, like, when it's one thing, you got to see that there's a problem before you're going to be able to, like, you know, make any decisions. And, you know, you guys have approached it, as they say, proactively. You know, you looked at something and, you know, you joined this program.
I would say not just from MBK, but just youth around the world who can provide the examples that we're providing, because a lot of our youth, whether we like to believe this or not, even the youth who are grown now, who were once youth, you know, our teachers, at least in certain communities, our teachers aren't the teachers in the school. Our teachers are the entertainers. Our teachers are the athletes, are the musicians. And if they telling us hard knock life and sell drugs and big booty girls, then that's what we're glorifying. That's what they teaching us. That's a majority of our day. You know, a majority of our day isn't in school, even though it should be, or I wouldn't say should be, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need, when we see people that we could identify with, most especially, so people of color, people, and if you're not a person of color, then just youth in general, a young person, just being a walking example of, you know, good mannerisms and just respect for women, respect for other men. And one of the things, I just got back from a conference in Oakland where I met the president, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And
how cool.
Yeah, what I learned over there is a term that I never knew existed, but subconsciously I knew this existed, and is toxic masculinity. And I grew up with that in my household. And as a young man growing up with that in your household, that's going to program your subconscious mind to appropriate that and act like that, especially as you get older. So he left around when I was like 13, 14 years old. That left me the man of the house. And subconsciously, I started snapping. I started acting those things that I saw out as a child. And I'm better to this day, but still to this day, my subconscious snaps sometimes. And it's a very vital thing for us to be that example that we don't have. So, like, you know, a respectable man, an honorable man, a noble man. We need those examples, especially from people we could identify with, if I could say the least.
Right. So, Deshaun, you know, I mean, without being a part of this program, do you feel like you might have been slipping, or that, you know, in other words, like, you know, I mean, we all tend to get by, but do you feel that, you know, this program for you has really done something major to you in terms of a turnaround, like a 180 kind of, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it just gave me a lot of leadership and a lot of like responsibility and like seeing what the real world is. And like, if I would have never joined this program, I'm like, I don't think I would be like how I am now, or like how far I got in school. Like I just would be slipping.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, from what I'm gathering, it also seems like you guys have also garnered a fair amount of self-respect.
Yeah.
You know, not just, I mean, respect for, obviously, for what's around you. But, you know, I find that a lot of times people don't respect themselves, and then they act out on it.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
They get angry, or they get whatever, you know, misogynistic, you know, this whole thing, the whole boo thing, you know, whatever. And it's really great, you know, I mean, that, you know, especially because, you know, you guys are young. It's great. Really, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's really, really good that you're getting started early, even though, yeah, as you were saying, maybe catch them even earlier, you know, in elementary school and stuff. So, that's great. Yeah, so I'm basically good. If you guys have anything else, you know.
Aside from that, it just wasn't in my interest to be this kind of person I am today.
So why, I forgot to ask you too, why did you join? In other words, like, you know, how were you approached? Why did you feel that this is something that you needed or that you wanted to participate in?
I really don't remember how this happened, but I remember, I guess I was on a streak of getting in trouble and just not showing up to school and just being late and just, I don't know, being the typical bad kid.
So you probably just approached and said, hey man, you know, like,
yeah,
you gotta,
they took me to the assistant principal, and then she said, you need to meet Mr. Regan. He's great. I think he'll be able to help you, and this and that.
Right.
I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know who this guy is. But I met him like a week later or something like that in his office, and then he basically just he didn't even bring up the program at first. He was just trying to get to me, and like he gave me a bunch of self-assessment tests and all that, and then I still wasn't really I was starting to like change my thinking patterns, but I was still in the same habits I was in. You know, I didn't break out of it yet. And then one day I came to Mike's office, and I had this book of like just a bunch of, I finally read like my first book, like my first full book, and it made me want to write. So I wrote a little piece, and then I was excited of how intelligent I sounded. So I brought it to Mike, and then he was like, yo, this is really good. This is like it doesn't even sound like somebody your age wrote this. And then he brought up the program. Would you be interested in mentoring kids and being more like something like how you're becoming right now? Because I don't know. I just went through a change. I don't know. And then I was like, yeah, I actually would love that.
Yeah.
He asked me that maybe 2 weeks ago. I probably had dubbed him. But since it was just that little change that made me accept that and just made me go forward, keep moving. Because we were rewarding, quote, bad kids.
Right.
And we were taking them on trips after they just got in trouble, got suspended. And they're like, yo, like this kid, like, it was evident. That honestly just showed how much the teachers didn't like certain kids.
Yeah.
and it really showed where some people's heart was truly at. And once we started having enough content to put out there to represent us the right way, because they would just point out a couple kids when most of our kids are doing great, they're improving themselves, but it's just a couple toxic kids that we're trying to help, but they're just harder to reach, you know. And you can't blame us for that. You can't blame the whole program for that. But that's what they were doing for a long time. And now that they see the majority is improving, now they're like, okay.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Awesome. Great. Well, guys, it's been really good. I promised you a tour of the station.